Good morning. Good morning. Java Delight will uplift you. Stay tuned. The show is about to begin. Grab your coffee. Stay tuned. This show is about to begin.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and my favorite person on the screen right now is Mr. Gavin Kerr, ladies and gentlemen. I went the wrong way. Gavin Kerr, ladies and gentlemen.
Couldn't tell.
Yeah, Gavin's having his technical difficulties. It's like the whole world's having trouble lately. Yesterday's show I got to do on my phone because my computer wouldn't work, and then this morning Gavin's like, my computer's not working. And I'm like, oh. Mine wasn't either. Gavin, How are you, my friend? It's a pleasure to see you, buddy.
I'm well fed. I made myself breakfast, and I'm awake, and I'm clean. I took a shower, so those are all good things. How are you, Brandon?
Those are all very good things. I am well, buddy. I am trying to figure out how I move my camera. Oh, because yesterday we did the workout. That's why it doesn't look aligned like it usually does. I move it around when we do that so much. I'm doing okay. I'm doing my best this morning. You know, your days you wake up and you don't feel like you, and it feels like you're carrying around a bag of rocks in your back.
Yeah, I used to listen to Limp Bizkit.
What?
It's just one of those days when you don't want to wake up.
I was going with the backpack on my back, and I'm picturing all of their songs, and I'm like, what? And then you said one of those days. And then I thought of like 5 other bands. Bad Hair Day, Gavin. You're getting... Oi! Morning from Mike Herzog. Morning all from Mandy Atterbury. Good morning. Good morning. Hope you all are being uplifted and having a great day. Bob Seymour was first. Delight Digital was second. Mandy was third on YouTube, but Java was third and fourth on Facebook. I might have had a little bit of fun this morning making Brett and Gavin laugh. But we are here this morning having a great start to the day, doing everything we can to bring ourselves positivity, uplifting encouragement, and making sure that we're able to bring you guys just a smile, even if we're both feeling like it's just one of those days.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Gavin Kerr, what'd you get into last night, buddy?
Last night I went to Hatfield's Good Grub and did a special trivia show for a party that was requested. I was doing every Wednesday. I was doing trivia there. But since the place is like just started to get back to full capacity, they haven't really been bringing in the business yet. So we decided to hold off on trivia regularly, but I'm doing karaoke every Friday there now. However, last night there was some big office team party meeting thing going on there, and so they specifically requested trivia for the event. So I went there, did trivia, had a lot of fun, came back home. I ended up actually getting done a half hour early because I always show up an hour early to set up to make sure I have time in case I have, I have any technical difficulties. And when I got there, they were like, hey, we've been here for like an hour already. Everybody's eating and drinking. Just start whenever you're ready. I was like, all right, cool. So I started half an hour early, got out half an hour early. It was a good time.
Wait, they were already there for an hour. Didn't they give you a time to be there?
Yeah. Well, they got there beforehand for whatever
so
reason.
They were early.
Yeah, they were early. Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Anytime that I go there, I'd always go. No, I'm never late for that kind of stuff. I don't know. I try not to be late for anything, in all honesty, but at the same time, I have a horrible case of procrastination. So it's a struggle. It's a battle every day. Let me tell you. Like I'll lay there in bed and I'll do the math to like the second. I'm like, all right, how long can I stay in this bed and not do anything before I have to do something? Carry the 2, take into consideration if I have to get gas. I don't have to get gas. How long is the drive there? Are there going to be traffic lights? Are there going to be pedestrians? What if there's a crash? All right, I got approximately 18 and a half minutes.
18 and a half minutes. You don't just let Google tell you?
No, because I've got a pretty good like mental compass of how far things are.
Oh,
So after I've done a drive enough times, I know how long it'll take me to get there.
So I agree, but what if there's an accident? Google would tell you it and give you alternate route and tell you to leave earlier.
Oh, if there's an accident, then I just account for 5 extra minutes.
But there might be, you might need 6, and then you're a minute. I'm just screwing with you. Yeah. So we got a busy day planned today, don't we, buddy? We have, Miss Christina is not going to be able to join us today. She is having a photo shoot. I know. I said the same thing. She has a photo shoot today. She didn't say exactly what it was for. I don't know. And that's I don't know what this means. I do know what this means. What a jerk. Brandon is a master navigator. Mike came out here to race his RC car. And we were going to, our goal was to find a way to break it so he could fix it. Okay. This thing goes 70 miles an hour. We were driving it off of we went to a skate park. Now he drives all the way out to Paynesville. So he drove about an hour to come hang out. And I thought we were just going to be driving around in my parents' yard, make our own jumps and stuff because they have a big yard. No, he's like, I want a skate park. Well, the closest skate park's like 30 minutes away. So Mike's like, okay, take us there. And I'm going directly to the skate park. He's like, if I would have known we were going to be driving 30 more minutes, I would have just did it. And I'm like, you're the one that wanted a skate park. So we're driving and I'm like 2 exits. That way he knows he's past the first one, going to the second one. And then he gets off and I'm like, turn right. And he's like, yeah, but I pointed left. I wasn't even thinking. I just was like, oh yeah, turn right. And he's like, well, you can't even point the right way. Mike likes to make sure I know when I do something wrong. He's always uplifting me to be the best me that I could be.
Nice.
So I am a horrible navigator apparently, and I'm okay with that. That means you just want me to run the music.
I gotcha. But my mother is very directionally challenged, is what we say. And then I've gotten better with it, but I still like to have the GPS just in case. Yeah. And then I believe my grandmother is also pretty god-awful with directions.
Well, how do you remember things? For me, I honestly don't know what it is. I cannot remember street names for the life of me. And
I do landmarks.
I do too, but when I'm like, oh, is that the one by the McDonald's? And like across the street from the CVS, people are like, I think. And I'm like, what do you mean you think? Like, it's right on Bagley. And you're like, what? What? Like, I know where Bagley is, but it's a long road. And they're like, I'm lost. Go north. Oh, that doesn't help me. I don't know which way north is when unless I have my compass.
Why don't you just use the sun?
Because what? I've never all right, so the sun takes you to rises in the
east,
sets in the
west.
Okay. So if the sun just came up and it's west or east right now, north would be that way, right? I mean, you're obviously not sitting with me, but north would be the opposite.
I can't see you, but sure, yeah.
Let's go like that.
I'm gonna assume that you're pointing north. Yeah.
I actually am because I know where the lake is where I'm at.
There you go.
But like, it's still. I guess I never.
Yeah, it's our thing too. We got the lakes as well. Yeah, just landmarks. I do landmarks, and then I also in my head, I think of like the world as like a grid. So if I know the general direction that it's in, like if I know it's like northeast or something like that, then in my head I'm just like, all right, it's in this general facility. So if I've been there before and I can get to that general area, then from there I can look for landmarks to get to my actual destination.
Gotcha.
Or I just use the GPS.
Speaking of GPS, we have a request for you to record your voice as a GPS person. They say that you would be the perfect one for their voice.
What kind of voice do you like want me to do? Like, I don't mean like what kind of like voices in character, but like how do you want me to talk to you? Because I can be very different. Like I can be all like, oh, just take the right or whatever, and then you miss the right. I'm like, oh, rerouting. Or I could be like, ooh, take a right here, and then you miss the right. And be like, nice job, dick. Take a left.
Have you ever do you ever use Waze?
No, what is Waze?
It's like GPS, like Apple Maps, Google Maps, stuff like that. But it's it's the test one for Google. It's where they put a whole bunch of things before you actually get it. What the funny thing is about it is you can have the Riddler and the Joker be two of your people, or the Riddler and Batman be two of your guides. So all of a sudden, like Batman warns you, like, oh, the Riddler set up a trap ahead. We're gonna be slowing down, and then the Riddler, when you slow down in traffic because of construction or something, oh, look at that! Like I got you again, Batman. And like, yeah, it's funny. Like it
sounds like fun. I like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, he can record it on Waze. There you go, buddy. You could literally be like, hey, I turn your radios up, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna turn right in a minute.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm horrible at giving directions in a car. I'm a terrible co-pilot. I'm great with the DJing part. I'm great with putting on the great music and all that stuff, the mad playlist, like keeping conversation going. But we'll be driving and I'll be talking to you, and then all of a sudden be like, "Oh, turn right 3 blocks ago."
Really? So
yeah, it's terrible. Or I'll tell you when to turn right when we're there. Like I just
I hate that. And all of a sudden it's like turn right, and you're like, you mean that one that I just missed? Like,
but I say it so casually too, which is the thing that kind of like throws people off. But like we're just about to drive and we're right here. I'm like, oh yeah, turn left. Anyway.
And you just keep going.
All right, keep going with whatever we were talking about.
So Brett Gordon has a good comment here. I was the navigator for training in the Air Force and used my marker to write left and right on my gloves so I could identify which was which. So like an L and an R like on your gloves so you knew left and right. That's R in sign language.
Did you not learn your left and your right until you were in the military?
Right, like that's kind of you did not know your left and your right until you were in the military. Ladies and gentlemen, Brett Gordon in the background here is shaking his head no. You knew nothing about being in your left and right?
I'm dyslexic when it comes to that. And
you never learned the finger trick?
Yeah.
Left hand makes an L.
Yeah, I learned the finger
right
trick,
hand
but that
right
read between
angle.
the lines thing didn't work.
Oh my God!
I don't need to see it to know what you're doing.
No, I was flying. In the Air Force and navigator training, you're flying side by side with the pilot, and I used to tell him go right, and I point with my left finger, and he's like, which way do you want me to go? I said, just follow my finger. Forget whatever I said, because I screwed that up when I was in officer training school and leading the marching. There was times that I told the column to go right and I turned left. That's embarrassing when you tell everybody to go one direction and you're the leader and you go the other direction.
I'm picturing that, like, because it's the Air Force. So I'm picturing Top Gun. Everybody's flying and Brett's like, go right.
Yeah, that's a great way to like that would actually like piss me off if I was flying a Air Force plane and you told me to go the wrong way.
I would be pretty unhappy myself.
Well, that's why I eventually figured out how to get out of nav training without failing out. I just figured out how to get out of there. But
our guest today, Mr. Neil Waiters, is going to be joining us in a little bit. He was in the Air Force as well. For 26 years, he was a master resilience trainer and pursuing his graduate degree in the performance psychology. He'll be joining us in a little bit, but I hope he was better at knowing left and rights than you, buddy. I love you, but it's one of those things. I got to make sure I pick on you. Thank you for being in the background, Brett. Everybody say hi to Brett. He's going to be having fun running the show from the back with us today, so we can make sure to give Neil our undivided attention. Ladies and gentlemen, the Breakthrough Show is here. Happy Thursday, a.k.a. the day before Brandon and Gavin grace the Breakthrough Show on screen. Bye, Gavin. Gavin's done with the show.
I'm plugging my thing back in right now.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Yes. Gavin is...
I need the power.
Show me the power. Gavin and I are on air tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern time, noon Central time. We are doing a live show with Jessica Dugas. It's the BJ Cafe, or known as the Breakthrough Show. Wow, was watching Neil's reaction in the background priceless when I said BJ Cafe. His head was down. He was writing, and his head goes right to the camera. No, Jessica Dugas with the Breakthrough Show, helping people explain their breakthroughs and getting through to their best selves. 100% looking forward to that tomorrow, guys. Tune in live. Apple TV, Google TV, E360 TV is the network she will be broadcasting off of. You could find us in many different spots there, and we'd love to have everyone come on, enjoy, and have a conversation with us. Bob Seymour says that Wake is pretty cool. I've used it in Israel and several other countries. Wake. Damn it. Waze. You ever just keep writing? You ever just keep writing something? It was meant to be Waze, and he kept writing the wrong one and hitting send, so I had to read it like that.
Yeah. My God. I was texting somebody the other day, and I was all like, wow, I really enjoy talking to you. You seem very interesting. It's too bad that you're so fat.
Somebody said that to you?
No, I said that to them by accident. I meant far, F-A-R, but I typed F-A-T because the R and the T are right next to each other. I felt so bad. They thought it was hilarious, but I damn near shit my pants after I read what I had said. I was like, oh, no, far, I mean far.
Too funny. Actually, that would be embarrassing in my eyes. I would have wrote back seconds later. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Oh no, I did. I immediately all caps letters far. I meant far. So sorry. I felt so bad.
Jessica Dugas apparently knows our guest. They have a mutual friend, and it seems seems so excited to hear from him today. Ooh, secret love interest going on here. I'm just making that up, guys.
Phil.
Don't tell Phil, the big D Dugas. Bob Seymour, my military was... I saw you laugh. I was doing so good till I saw you laugh. My military right was always changing. I'm still so confused. That's why when we asked Brett to come out here, he ended up in California. After 181,000 miles of GPS in my head, it's about the journey, not the destination, as long as you end up in the right place. Good vibes. Guys, Bob Seymour will be joining us tomorrow. I believe he will be in Florida, if I'm correct. I thought he was heading there next for the wedding that he was going to perform.
That's right. I was going to say, doesn't he have a wedding down there? And then is he making his way up towards us after that, or what's he doing? Do you know?
He sent. Did you not see his message to us? He sent us both a message saying how he was going to head to us June 25th, and I have to respond to him and let him know that you and I won't be able to make that. And it's mainly because we're going to be in Vegas, and then when we get back, you have a few more months before you're able to be free and be a bird.
Yeah. These shackles are getting rusty, but they're almost off. I'm excited.
You're excited?
I am. I think I'm going to move to France.
Really? Oh, he's still in Colorado till the 11th. So he'll be in Colorado.
In all honesty, I might look into it. That has been something that I thought about doing, is just packing up and moving to France for a year, working in some small mom and pop shop and just living with basically nothing. Sounds fun.
You need to watch the episode of The H last night. Dead serious. Okay. The guy that was on, we had Alan. We had a whole conversation with him about he has a new project called the Campfire Project in Australia, and it's about.
I always want to go to Australia.
Dude, no, hold on. He's a face reader, okay? And what I mean by that is Joe and I did our intros that I always do. Yeah. And then he turns around, and as we're sitting there, he starts. I'm asking him questions. How do you even get a job as a face reader? What did you do for Disney as someone that's judging people's faces and their tics, as his bio said? And he's going on, and we're talking about these things. I was sitting there, and I'm like, all right, let's play. And I go, Joe, you know Joe, F Joe. Joe is literally sitting there, and I go, tell me about Joe. He hasn't said even 3 words. And the guy Alan goes, so Joe, and he picks him apart one by one, all with like things on his face. He goes, well, his eyes are this, so that means Joe is this. His lips are this, so that means this. His nose is this. He told Joe everything about Joe. And I'm sitting there going, he had to stalk you on Facebook, and Joe doesn't have any social media, so he couldn't have.
Yeah.
And I'm like cracking up. And I go, well, I don't want you to do me because I'm afraid of what you're going to say about me now. And of course, now the audience is like chiming in. They're all like, oh, no, you got to get him. Get him, Alan. Get him, Alan. Get him. So he starts going into me, and I had sunglasses on because I was having technical difficulties yesterday. And
I'm sure that said something about you.
Brett is in the background, and he can make a comment. He saw me trying to get this together and all this. Brett, did he pick me apart pretty well? Yep. Brett's in the background, nodding his head extremely. Like, within 5 minutes, this guy not only took everything that I am, and he was able to explain it. I thought he seriously was like watching all of our shows and knew stuff about me that I was like blown away with.
What if he did? What if he just watched all of our shows? He just binge watched them.
He's like, I'm not going to sleep for 3 days.
Yeah, that's what he did. What if that'd be impressive. That really would.
First off, I want to thank him if that's what he did, because that means he really is dedicated to knowing his people. Second off, kudos for taking the time for that. No, he did not do that, though. And he totally just analyzed my face, and he goes like, you do this, and he had it 100% on the dot, like for real. It seriously was unique. Well, his campfire project is all about being able to go out into the wilderness and not have anything around you, being like, you can't have cell phone signal, stuff like that. And it's about being like around a campfire. And he did it during COVID, so men and women can actually have conversations without emotions. So he would start every campfire or presentation when he's performing in front of people and giving a speech by literally just like, all right, so you're all wondering what I'm going to do, right? And then each member of the audience would start front row, and people would be like, oh my God, and like stuff like that. And he'd keep going, and he would just take people apart in a good way. And it opened up the eyes to everybody to be like, wow, we really all do have another story. But you mentioned going and disappearing in a hut. We were talking about that the other day and how important it is.
Not really disappearing in a hut. I would just live in like
I'm picturing you. I want you in a hut. How's that?
Well, I mean, I'm down with that as well. But what I was talking about is getting like the cheapest apartment I could possibly find, and just working for some like little mom and pop like owned restaurants in France, and just working for them and making like nothing but just enjoying the culture and the atmosphere and the experience of being there.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
So are you going to want to like work at like a coffee house? Like something like that? Because like France has amazing coffee places. And that's one of those things where for real, like you go out there, you're going to learn stuff that they don't teach you in Starbucks. They're not going to teach you at any of these places. Yeah. You're literally going to be learning why coffee is something that you should be when you drink it, it's not meant to be fast paced. It's meant to be something that you're enjoying, like almost like a fine wine or a fine Brett.
Yeah. Yeah. A coffee house, a bakery, a deli. Doesn't really matter to me. I'm not picky.
So let's do this, buddy. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You and I both have, the last 24 hours have been kind of a little bit like thrown both of our energies off in many different ways. And
I'm just tired.
I am, after the show today, I think I'm going to take a minute for myself and completely lay down. And I don't ever do that during the middle of the day. Something's just not right in me today, and I can feel it. I woke up angry. I was saying nothing but negative things. I literally was laying in bed telling myself, find your things to be grateful for. And everything I had that I could find that I would be grateful for, I literally started being like, yeah, but you also failed at this. Yeah, but you also did that. And it just felt like an anchor was pulling me down this morning. Completely.
Have you eaten today?
Yeah. I drank a whole thing of water. I ate a healthy breakfast. I even stretched and did some breathing. All of that, and then had a great conversation with my mom as I had a cup of coffee. And I just can't get out of it right this second. And I just know that that's in my own heart, in my own head. It's in me, and it's in me to get out of, because I'm the one, like I say all the time. But I also know that coming on here daily, I need to be able to be honest with everything, because it makes me honest with myself, because not everybody's going to wake up and have a great day. But today, finding what we're grateful for, thankful for, something along those lines, something that makes you happy to be alive. That's the one I want. Happy to be alive. What is a reason you are happy to be alive this morning? Write that in the comments. Give us why you are happy to be here. What brings you joy in your day and makes you glad that you got to wake up and take a deep breath? Gavin, what makes you happy?
I'm happy to be alive every day, just for the simple fact that for all the eternity before me being born, I was not alive. And I have the rest of eternity after I die, no matter what your belief is, to no longer be this form. So I'm just grateful that I get to live out this life and figure it out this time.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty neat, you know, like close your eyes for 3 seconds.
All right. Gavin's in charge, guys. I am completely closing my eyes. Just tell me what to do.
Yep.
Go.
Just close your eyes for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. You can open them. That's how long eternity feels before you're born. Like that's eternity right there, because you don't actually remember, register, process it. It's just complete nothingness, and then boom, you exist all of a sudden. Like that's pretty awesome. That's really hard to wrap your head around. So I'm very grateful that I get to at least acknowledge the fact of my existence.
I completely get where you're saying, and it reminds me of a sermon I had back in the day when I was a pastor.
Yeah.
And I had a basket on stage, and a rope was in the basket, like one of those big ropes you would climb in high school. Well, you're a little young. You probably didn't have to climb the rope, so never mind. But
we had ropes, and I did climb them, but it was not a thing we had to do. I just did it for fun.
They got rid of the physical challenges and what is it called, the president's test? Yeah, because too many kids were failing it. They're like, this kid can't even climb 3 feet up the rope without the teacher holding him. You know, we need to be able to
tell you.
You should be able
drink
to
some water, go for a walk.
It's way more than that. I'm gonna have Neil.
I know it is. I know it's way more than that. That's me being an ignorant dick, in all honesty.
Oh, I know. That's why I responded with Neil's going to beat you up, not me, because that way I have reasons. There's nothing I have control of on that. But the sermon was about how, exactly what you're saying, the eternity, and how we think our lives are so bad, and we take a moment in it, and it's just, we feel that negativity, we feel unhappy, whatever it is, you win the lottery and you're like, yeah, it's the greatest day ever, and you feel that moment, but then later you're out of it. Well, in that basket the church I was preaching at, I had a rope, and I took that rope and I walked across the entire stage, and I'm explaining to everybody that this is eternity. And this is exactly how it goes. You have all these different strands going together to make up eternity. Those are people's lives, stories, people that are connected to you from all these different things. But at the end, there is a piece of tape that is no thicker than a piece of Scotch tape, duct tape, whatever. It's just that little thing. That is your entire life, to live 100 years. Like, you live to be 100 years old. That is the entire timeline you had. But all the rest of eternity is still going after that. And for me, it's always been that little bit of time I have to make the most of. I have to give back and do things for and help lead, because so many of us build what we want for ourselves, and we think money, power, fame, whatever is going to be what gets it there. But for me, I looked at all those strands after it. I looked at all of how that had to go together to hold the rope and make the rope as strong as it could, that it could pull us up. And I literally was showing everybody that the universe is so big and we're so small, that if we look at how much everybody else has after us, how much are we doing to look into what we're doing to change that? So for me, that was my way of looking into the universe. I love your analogy, though. You close your eyes, you have 3 seconds, it's starting from nothing. But yeah, I like I said, I went to bed last night late and woke up this morning and haven't been myself today yet. But I'm trying, and I'm glad that you and I are able to have a good conversation. Mandy Atterbury is happy to be alive and hanging out with us. Brian Tracy says, my dedication to delight to the world makes me happy and gives me inspiration. Bob Seymour says, I'm thankful to be alive and living in the freest nation in the world. Brett Gordon, when you're free, when you're feeling down, get eye to eye with the minion behind you and say hi. I love minions. I'll be your minion, Uncle Bob.
What?
I love it. Like, and this is a good point. I will admit this. This is change the verbiage from I have to I want to, or I'm excited to. 100% yes. The problem with eternity is that it is infinite and our minds are finite.
Well, finite, not finite.
I knew what I said it wrong. I said it wrong. You got me.
Okay. That's something interesting to think about, that time is infinite. You know, everybody thinks that, like, there is a beginning, or most people think, like, there's a beginning when time and everything started, right? But when you think about infinity, it's not like a start and then an end point, or a start and then a forever point. It's a loop. What if that's what time is? What if time is just like an endless loop, like a big circle or an infinity sign? And with that, it begins the same way that it ends. Like, you know how like scientists, we have these huge, I don't know what the hell they're called, but basically they take molecules and they shoot them at each other at like light speed, and they create these little black holes.
Chemists.
You know what I'm talking about? Not chemists. No, they're physicists. No, what?
No, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, we have these huge machines that do this. I can't remember what they're called. But basically, they shoot 2 molecules at each other at light speed, and they create these little black holes. And I heard Joe Rogan talking about this, and they theorize that in each little black hole, there is a universe. And there are galaxies, just like a theory. But what if that is true, though? Like, and what if that's like the start to every universe? Is just some people in a lab just shooting protons at each other as fast as universally possible, and then just creating worlds out of that. And it just forever goes in a circle. There is no beginning or end. It just constantly goes around and around and around.
Do you die? Do you live and die, or are you just part of a universe that's in a lab?
What do you mean? Do you live and die? Do I live and die? Yeah.
No.
Die.
Hold on.
Yeah.
No, I'm meaning it in a different way. I love where your energy went. I'm like, yeah, of course you live, of course you die. No, you're saying that with the protons creating it, and it creates this world, things, meaning organisms, actually, does it create life? And then when you die, does that mean because it's an ongoing cycle, you just come back in another cycle?
I mean, that's very possible. That could be why we have deja vu.
Ooh, I had somebody tell me recently, and it was an interesting one, that you can leave yourself signs through life to help guide you. And I was like, that's interesting. And then I realized my tattoo aligned completely with something in my life and helped me balance me. And it was something that I didn't even realize when I was getting it. And that was what was amazing to me. So maybe that is true. Maybe you are able to. So let me ask you this. If you could do this, Gavin, and we are in a lab and we're just a product of that lab, okay?
Yeah.
What would you do to build the best Gavin so you can leave yourself clues along the way to make sure you're doing the right thing and on the right path?
I'd follow my instinct. I think that's the best.
That's a basic answer.
No, I think that's the only appropriate answer, because how am I to know if something that I do right now is an actual clue that I'm leaving myself for the next time that I make this journey? How am I, like, I can't write on like a sticky note or something and put it on the wall and then that'll be there the next time I come around. Like, how do I consciously know? I have to create things in my head that are so deeply embedded that they carry on to the next life. And I just subconsciously know this is what I need to do. You know, it's like, it's that trial and error that's passed down genetically. You know, like, and that's an actual thing too. You can, like, fear is something that can be genetic. There have been studies about, like, grandparents who have had very traumatic experiences with some kind of animal or something like that, and then their kin are just naturally afraid of that animal irrationally.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe that's part of what instincts is. Then it's us leaving those notes and then passing it down to our kin or ourselves or whatever, and the next generations, the next universe, the next whatever comes further down the line.
So, Brian Tracy made a great comment. I'm not sure. Are you seeing the comments, buddy, or no?
I can't see a thing. No, I'm like a blind man right now.
Luckily, I know sign language. There it was. I do that joke all the time, and people literally go, "Oh, okay, that's good," and then it hits them, and I'm like, "Yep, there you go." So I don't shower
right away.
So Brett uses his not showering to be able to know that he can go for a few days and follow in his stink. That's why he has extra bedrooms in his house, is so he can literally just stink one room up at a time and not have to shower longer. But I love what Brian Tracy is saying here. You ready? Why are certain life-changing events in life parallel and certain number of years apart? So in life, if we have that cycle, like you're saying, okay?
Yeah.
And then I think this is a great question, because you literally can see a pattern in your life and how things come back in and out. I have had relationship, family, and friends issues that literally come back up years later, and I noticed those patterns and what I did and how to change them. So why do certain things that could actually, I think that answers his question by the way you answered it. Why are certain life-changing events in life paralleled? So that goes back to like what Gavin was saying about how it goes intertwined. It's about finding your, right before I said it, Tokyo Bento got it in. It's about finding your biorhythms and knowing who you are and going with the flow. It's like Gavin said, your intuition will lead you in the right way. They say trust your gut. You know what I mean? They always say that. You've heard that. Oh, you got to just trust your gut and know where you're headed and all that. But when you trust your gut, is that really the best way of knowing you're headed the right way? Or do you trust your mind and think about it or overthink it? Because I'm known to be an overthinker. I even have two different cups that tell me I'm an overthinker. People like to buy me things like that. But I think it's the bio, like it said, Tokyo Bento said, hi, Tokyo, by the way. I hope you see what I did to the unicorn. He is my cop now. He is making sure to keep us all safe. That's why he has the sunglasses on, because he can't show his real identity. You don't know if my unicorn is a drug dealer or an actual cop. That's the thing. We have to figure it out what he is. But how do you keep from pissing off the universe to stop the cycle of the above mentioned events? So how do you stop a cycle?
the universe cares. I don't think you can piss it off, quote unquote.
I like that.
In all honesty, like as important as we feel like we are and want to believe that we are, it's relative. You know, we're very important to ourselves, and then we're very important to some people. But overall, the bigger picture, we're extremely insignificant as far as the whole universe goes. Like, I don't think that there's anything that you could do where the universe would really bat an eye at you or your existence. That goes for me as well. I'm not trying to sound like an ass when I say that, but when you think about it, for how much life is most likely probably in the entire universe, our one little speck of dust, little dot of time, little piece of existence is less than 1/100th of a blink of an eye as far as eternity goes in all this space that we have.
I actually like what the comments are coming in. A lot of people say they disagree. Yes, you can piss off the universe. Oh, yeah. I knew you wouldn't care. It's about the conversation. By the way, Tokyo Bento called it Unicop. I thought that was hilarious. That one made me laugh. I used to think I was such a shithead in my youth, Brian Tracy says, that the universe will never stop punishing me, no matter how much I have changed. See, this is where I actually agree with Gavin on this conversation. I truly think you have the right to choose how your universe is. And I mean that in the sense that it is, Gavin has it right. You have to picture it in your mind. You have to put positivity out there, and what you give, you get back. But you have to give freely. And if you're giving with the mindset that you're getting something back, you're never going to get anything back because you're not giving freely. You're giving to get. And with the universe, if you always think you were a troublemaker, if you always think you were the problem child, if you always think you're the one that they're blaming and in trouble, you're going to keep bringing around those same types of mentalities. And to change your own mindset is a very difficult thing. Like, it's like me waking up today and being depressed as hell and not wanting to be on the show and literally like laying in bed for an hour crying. Has nothing to do with anybody else's, how they've talked to me or anything, or how the universe views me. Because truthfully, and I'm saying this as me, and I would say this to Gavin, Brett, Neil, Brian, Tracy, whoever you are, you wake up and have to love you. The universe loves you when you love you. And, Champion Stepdad with a comment, news comment, and he's the guy we're interviewing later, Neil Waiters. Your brain is easily tricked. It believes what you perceive or tell it. Boom. He's going to come on here and drop some knowledge on you guys. Stick around. Neil is going to be here. He is a champion of all stepdads. He won the award, and they just awarded him it recently. He'll be giving his speech on air. But no, it's honestly, he's 100% right. Your brain is easily tricked. I love what makes Mandy Atterbury is saying, Mr. Tracy, if you forgive yourself and let go of all past regrets, things will get better. Now, I love you, Mandy. I'm going to twist this on you, being someone that loves to be on our show and talk a lot. How do you do that for yourself? Because we can give that advice to everybody. Hey, just forgive yourself. Guess what? When I forgive myself, that does not mean that I'm going to feel better. I have to truly know that what that forgiveness is. It's like looking at the pains that, like Gavin. Gavin likes to sometimes just be an ass to stir a pot. And I could easily, and I'm saying that as a compliment, you know that. He literally is someone that likes to just, he has a wooden spoon 24/7. And
I like to provoke thought. Yeah.
But that's the thing. A lot of people don't. That's why you and I get along, is we push each other's buttons, but in a nice way. But like, you have to be able to, like when you say forgive yourself and let go of past regrets, you have to know that even if Gavin pisses me off, it's my choice on how I respond to what he said. And if I can't walk away to forgive myself for the things he's made me mad for, I need to be able to know that I need to let go for my own sake. And that's for everybody. So for Brian Tracy, Mandy Atterbury, Bob Seymour says, because I know you can't see the comments, I'm just clicking and reading them for you, buddy, so you know what's going on. Giving with expectations of something in return is not loving someone. It's selling a product. Loving is freely giving with no expectations of anything in return. It's a battleground for control of the mind. Ready? Oh my God, Squirrel says, I attract the universe nuts. I love that. The universe is nuts. So I want to put Tokyo Bento's comment up here, but I don't want to at the same time. Karma is a bitch with a 12-inch strap on. So if there's children listening, please make sure you take them away before I read that. But like when you think of it, it's a great analogy for it because that is a really heavy thing. And karma, Joe's not in the comments today, but if you ask Joe, I'm instant karma. Literally, I go to pick on Gavin, my chair will break and I'll fall over here and everybody'd be laughing. I put good out because of how much instant karma is. And
now let me ask you this. Do you think that that karma is something that happens because the universe is quote unquote mad at you? Or do you think that it's something that happens because you do something that you know is wrong and you put that energy out there inviting the karma to affect you?
Elaborate on your question. I want to make sure I understand it. Like I think I'm reading into it.
Okay, so let's say Coda comes in here, and I don't want him in here, and I tell him to get out, and he doesn't, and I smack him in the head, and I don't think twice about it, and I just continue on with my day like nothing happened, and then nothing happens. But let's say he comes in, and I smack him in the head, and I think to myself, oh shit, that was bad. Now I'm going to get some karma. And when I go outside, a bird shits on my shoulder or something like that.
So that's
now,
almost like go ahead.
Yeah. Is it karma because the universe is trying to punish me for smacking my dog? Or is it karma because I put that energy out there? And then let's say as well, too, if I don't hit him and I just go outside and a bird shits on my shoulder anyway, now that karma is now a coincidence.
I think that's why everything. All right. So me, you hit the dog. Yes, you're bad karma. Are you telling yourself that? Okay.
Yeah.
But a good comment came in. But let me finish my point.
Yeah.
So karma is not just going to instantly like, oh, a bird poops on you because you slapped the dog. We all need training and knowing how to be our best us. And you know that you have to have a hand on your dog with being the big dog that you have. Do I think you hitting it would be instant karma of a bird pooping on you per se? No, but I do think it would be you doing something maliciously to hurt somebody, offend somebody, or say something that you know is tearing them down and going to make them feel worse without actually caring. I think that's negative karma. The guy who cuts you off on the road that is nothing more than just in a hurry, you flip him off. I don't believe you're going to get negative karma. Now, you chasing him down to the next red light and telling him what a piece of crap he is. Yeah, that is something that you shouldn't do because that's putting negative karma on there and it's making your mind get into a negative mindset.
Good way to get shot is what it is.
Dude, like for real.
Yeah. I guess let me try to rephrase the question real quick. So is something or bad things that happen to your life karma, whether you've done something bad or not? Like, bad things happen in life. That is just life in general. But how do you know that it is karma unless you associate it with something bad that you've done? Like when I was in the 8th grade, I cheated on my girlfriend. So then if I have a job and like later as an adult, if I have a career and something happens where somebody takes it from me or I get fired or laid off or the company gets shut down and I associate, oh my God, this is karma from when I hurt that girl way back when, and I'm not allowed to have anything good in my life.
See, I think that's just keeping yourself in a negative mindset. That's like stepping into a pit of quicksand. and you just choose to stay there. I think that you have to learn to forgive. It's like my ex-wife. All right. I love where your analogy went, because that would be a great one for me. My ex-wife.
Yeah.
All right. So you and I've had some conversations, and you know a little of my story, and I know your story a little bit as well, but there's way more there. But with my ex-wife, I could stay in that negative mindset. Oh, he's gonna come in and drop knowledge on us, man. Like, Champion
I'm very engaged in this conversation, so I would love to continue when he comes on. I feel like he has a lot to add.
I do too, but I want to know about what he's up to too. So we got to make sure we stay focused to make sure he stays the guest and we don't just take over like we do.
Yes, we got an hour with him. We'll get our stuff taken care of.
That's true. Confirmation basis. Your attention bias. Your attention goes to the information that comes with what you believe. Confirms what you believe. 100%. I agree with that. Jaybird says, our lives are like the Sims game. Our energy programs the interaction we have. Us being affects all those that our paths cross. Our energy ripples across the pond outward, then returns to us. Some call it karma. Ooh, Gavin's smiling. I think you got something out of there. Bob Seymour. I'm gonna keep reading, and then you get the floor. Okay. Bob says two things. On that now. I know. I see it. I'm gonna read these comments, and then it's yours. Do you think the universe is a personality or an object? Personally, I believe the universe is a created forum for all things to exist. Now, the Breakthrough Show says, how do you really know if anything is really tied together? We don't. The only thing we know or can control is how we react to the circumstances that happened. And then Champion Stepdad says, right on, Breakthrough Show. All right, talk to me, buddy.
Okay, really quick, I'm just acknowledging what Bob said. I think the universe is, in a sense, a giant living organism, in the fact that it's almost like a human body. How we have our own little biomes in us, we have our own little things that survive that depend on one another, and then things that don't as well. And I think it's just an extremely, extremely spread out giant living organism, in a sense. And then going on to who made the one comment that I was smirking at? Was that Bento?
No, the one that was what was the comment? That way I know, because I read 3 of them.
The first one.
Confirmation bias. Your attention goes to the information that confirms what you believe, from Champion Stepdad.
Yes. Okay, so on that then, that begs the question, do we have free will? And here's why. So if you have a game of pool, right, and you have a good enough computer, and you hit a pool ball at a very exact angle, at a very exact speed, if you have a good enough computer, you can calculate where all those balls are going to go every single time. You can do 1,000 times over and over again. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So that is a cause and effect of the energy of that stick hitting the ball, hitting another ball. Correct? So one hitting the other, hitting the other. They have to react to the thing before it. All right. So molecules are essentially the exact same thing, where one has to react to how the other one before it reacted. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So now, if you think about that, your brain is nothing but molecules firing off. Yes, synapses just going on and off that react to the thing before it. So because of that, if we continuously backtrack to what happened before, we have action Z right here. If we go back and see what happened before to cause it to react to that, which that is the reaction that it had to have, because of what happened before it, we continue all the way back to the beginning of the infinity, assuming that there is a direct beginning, or however far back you want to go. Would that mean that everything has already been predetermined from the very beginning?
See,
because
that's
that one thing happened. Yeah, because one thing happened and everything had to react according way to how that happened. If it would have happened 1,000 times over again, using this logic, it would have happened the exact same way, meaning that everything would have kept going the exact same way until we end up right here, right now.
So would that mean that you have the choice of how you can change it for the future because of those neurons fighting, going?
I don't think so. I think you can create the illusion of it.
Okay.
But by that logic, we technically would not have any free will, just the illusion of it, because we are sentient. Because whatever happened during history allowed us to. I'm assuming it happened when we started eating psilocybin mushrooms. That's the Stone Ape theory, if anyone wants to look into it. But the chain reaction that happened down the line, causing our ancestors to eat those, causing us to be self-aware of this sort of pattern that's going on. Correct. And make us question our existence and make us question our free will or not. But in reality, even us questioning that is just our next chain of reaction due to what happened previously. It's just new paths that have been cut out. But in a sense, we're forced to take these paths.
You know what? I do agree with you, and I could see that. Do you know what? I bet there's someone who might know better. And we've been talking.
Oh, absolutely. There's probably a lot of people.
Well, I think we could bring someone in today. Mr. Neil, a waiter. I'm saying his last name wrong. I guarantee it. But
I don't see it, so I can't try to pronounce it.
I'll spell it for you, and see if you can do it. Watter.
Yeah, waiter. That sounds right.
See, I sounded it out. Well, he has 26 years of Air Force veteran military. He's an Air Force veteran. Literally, email came in and went right over his bio for me. As a resilience trainer and performance consultant, my skill-based programs help people grow and thrive through stress and adversity. My current project, the Champion Stepdad, a community and podcast exploring the unique roles of stepdads and how to apply resilience and performance psychology skills to become a better father figure and role model. I 100% am excited for this. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, let's welcome Mr. Neil Watter. Hello, how are you, Neil?
Good. How you been, man?
Doing great. Yourself?
I am wonderful.
Good, man. Yeah, I logged in right when the show started. I've been hanging out and listening. It's great, man. Great conversation. I love the content, and I'm excited for this.
Awesome. Thank you. We're excited to have you.
I 100. Now, what do you think of our conversation so far? Like, what are you've been having some great comments. So, and I'm trying to catch up to the comments now because there's so many of them that came in while Gavin and I went on our tangent there. But like, what would you say? You have a lot of hellos, by the way. You have fans already. I love it. What do you think of what we're saying? Like of what our conversation is? Is the universal loop? Is there what's your opinion through all of this?
You know, this is one of those conversations where you can have a couple drinks around a campfire and talk about it all night long. So the short version, the short version of what I believe is, people have been talking about this for centuries. You go all the way back to ancient philosophers, and really, really smart people, much smarter than I, have been having this conversation, and we still don't have an answer, and we're certainly not going to figure it out in the next 60 minutes. So what I try to focus on is what's within my control. You know, I'm not gonna solve this thing in my lifetime. If somebody's going to solve it, you know, kudos to them to having that passion and pursuing it. But what I need to do is focus on what is within my immediate control. That's where I'm going to have the greatest effect to have to have my best life.
Yes, I love it. So I already have the first question from the audience for you. Can you pronounce your last name?
Wattier.
I knew I was doing it wrong, but I was like trying not to overthink it. So You have had an amazing, you've been doing a lot of good things. I looked up your YouTube channel beforehand and watched one of your videos last night. I couldn't sleep, so I turned it on. I wanted to get to know about you. What does it mean to be a champion stepdad? I think that's a very important thing to have a conversation on nowadays. What does that mean to you?
Well, interesting that the idea behind Champion Stepdad is not that I'm going to come on and tell everybody how to do it right. I actually started this because I'm in a fairly new relationship with an amazing woman. She's my fiance. We're supposed to get married this summer, and she's got 2 young boys. And I actually have two older kids, 22 and 25. And then I have another stepson from a previous marriage who is 19. And so now I'm in a fresh relationship with somebody who's with a 7 and a 9-year-old. And even though I've got all this experience from being a father and a stepfather, I found myself making the same mistakes over again. And it was driving me crazy. And so, being a resilience trainer, being in my master's degree for performance psychology, looking at, training athletes and what we call tactical athletes for, firefighters and military, it was driving me crazy that I couldn't figure it out. I was making the same mistakes, and I teach this shit. It was so frustrating. So I started the community because I wanted to connect with other people in a similar situation as me, so I can apply the skills and hold myself accountable. This wasn't about me coming out here and saying, look, I got all the answers, because I don't. It's trying to connect with other people and build a community where I built it on empathy and accountability. Empathy because being a stepdad is tough. Accountability because I get it, it's tough, but you chose to be here. There are no accidental stepdads. So how can you learn skills that help you become a better father figure and role model?
What would all right, so being a single guy, Gavin is an attractive young man, and he might end up with a girl who has kids. But me, being a 38-year-old, I'm the epitome of what a stepdad would look like. I even have part of the dad bod down already. I love it. I'm doing my best, Will Smith and I, But what would be a first step? Because, for me, I'm a different breed, but to be a stepdad to me is something that I would take that seriously before I dated somebody who had kids. So what would you say to people that, man, she might be hot, but she has kids? You have to know what you're stepping into. It's not like you're just dating her, you're dating the kids. How do you actually take that first step as a stepdad to being a great stepdad?
Well, and that's a great question, not only for the guy, but also for the lady with kids. And this is a role reversal. I'm starting to get a lot of people contacting me, asking me about, well, what about stepmoms? Well, a lot of this stuff is equally equivalent. I only chose to do stepdad because that's who I am. That's what I am. But when we talk about, just asking the question is honestly the first step. Self-awareness is the first step, because you can't regulate until you're self-aware. How are you going to self-regulate until you're self-aware? Because what are you regulating, right? And that goes for anything. And just asking the question challenges you to make sure that you're putting your attention where your attention needs to be. The first step to education is admitting your ignorance. You can't.
I like that.
Yeah, you can't learn anything until you can step out and admit that you don't know something, and you're seeking, but because that puts you in the mindset of, I want to seek knowledge. So just asking the question puts you on is a level of accountability, that you're admitting you don't know something. So because you want to step into this and you want to have effective conversations, because you're right. You go out and you date somebody, and wow, she got a great personality, she's attractive, and she's fun, and she's funny, and all this stuff, and she's got kids, right? That's why I say there's no accidental stepdads, because if you're going to step into that role, got it, she's a great person, but she's got kids, and that's part of the package. And we can talk about baggage and whatever you want to call it. There's no need to be harsh, and there's no need to glaze over it and try to make it all sunshine and rainbows. It's just real life.
Call a spade a spade. She has kids. It's a responsibility.
Yeah, and exactly. And it's the responsibility that if you're going to step into this role, you have to go in eyes wide open, and you got to have effective conversations so that there's an agreement going on here. That and stepping in, and the reason why I say that the stepdad role is unique is because there are so many different scenarios. I mean, imagine if you're stepping into a relationship with somebody with children. There's either been an ending of a relationship or somebody's died.
Yeah.
There's trauma already in this situation, right? And trauma means a lot of things to a lot of different people. You have to be aware that there's already hurt in this relationship, and you're willing to step into that. You better understand what that means.
Yeah. So stepping into that relationship is difficult. Like that first decision when you're going to date somebody that has kids, whether it be a man or a woman, would you recommend interacting with the other person's significant other they had the child with? Because that can be a really tough road when you get into a relationship. Absolutely.
And the first thing is you're not in control. You're not in charge. What's your job? Your job is to be. So for me, my job is to be the best spouse and friend I can to my significant other. The next thing is to be supportive to her when it comes to her raising her kids. I'm not raising her kids. I want no different than if I go out and I coach a football or a soccer team. I want to be a good coach. I want to be a good father figure and a good role model. But those are not my kids. And there's a lot of different scenarios. So yeah, when you talk about, well, what about the biological dad? He is still their dad. I don't care what you think about that person. You don't ever talk bad about him unless it's just to the spouse. So you never talk bad in front of the kids. You never put him down. And it's actually a good idea. Don't even talk bad about him, because you don't want to get in that habit, and you don't want to accidentally say something at some point. One of my biggest struggles right now is Cindy's 9-year-old is just like his dad. And his dad's he's a good dude, right? He's involved. We have a week on, week off relationship. And he's involved, and he does all things. He does little things that drive me crazy, but I got to keep telling myself he's involved. He hangs out with his kids, and he's a good dad, right? But he does some little things that just drives me crazy, and I see a lot of that in the 9-year-old. And so I got to keep telling myself that he is not his dad, and I can't treat him like that. And he is an individual, and I got to love him for who he is. And that's my responsibility. That's the accountability for me being the bigger person. But that goes back to, you talk about how do you act within the universe. Your universe is whatever it is that you perceive, because your brain is easily tricked. And if I want to go out there and I want to look at him like his dad, I'm going to treat him like his dad. If I want to treat him like an individual, I got to separate the two, and I have to understand that he is a unique being and he's a great kid. I got to connect with him. I can't expect him to be anything other than who he already is.
How would somebody start that? And I'm asking purely out of my own ignorance, because I have never been a stepdad. I've been a foster dad, but never a stepdad. And that's an entirely different thing.
Well, it's different, but actually, if you think about it, it's kind of like my analogy of coaching a soccer team, right? So your responsibilities, you're raising a child who's not yours, period.
Yeah.
And how can you do that as effectively as possible? It's, I have a friend of mine who's over in the UK, and we're in a similar business mentoring group where he raised his 2 nephews after his sister suddenly died. Same thing. Like, it's just a different scenario, but you're raising kids that are not biologically yours. If you put it into that type of outlook, then it becomes similar. And now we have a connection. And that's the idea behind Champion Stepdad, is build your band of brothers so that you have the empathy, you have the support, but you also have the accountability. Now we're doing this together. And I think that's where a lot of guys miss on their connections is just being okay not knowing everything and learning from other people. And so, admitting your ignorance is the first step to education. And then the support comes from finding people with similar situations, so that you have people to fall back on to support you, to encourage you, but also hold you accountable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've dated a handful of women who have had children. I've had to embrace that stepfather figure type of role a handful of times. And the way that I always went about it was very similar to what you're saying. It's like a coach kind of perspective, where I do things with them. I'd bond with them. I'd spend time with them, be nice. And if I saw them doing something that I thought wasn't the best idea, I'd try to guide them out of that. If they're like playing with something they probably shouldn't be playing with, Obviously, if it's like a knife or something, I'd take it away from him, but I never ran into that scenario. We were pretty good about keeping an eye on him. But if there ever came a situation where they were straight up just acting out or being disrespectful or rude or acting inappropriately, I would always let the mother handle the actual discipline parts. I would always let the mother get stern or put them in timeout or do whatever she felt like she had to do with it. The most that I did was like, hey, buddy, maybe you shouldn't do that, or let's go do this instead and try like a distraction type of method. Do like something that was more passive rather than very forward and blunt.
Well, and that's a great point, because what's your job as a role model and mentor is to guide and direct, right? And you said discipline, and I'm glad that you said that, because this has been a very hot topic since I started this community. And I've had some people really push back on me, but I tell people that discipline is not punishment. Yeah. If you think about discipline, you think about the root word discipline is either to learn or to teach. It doesn't involve punishment. Punishment is completely separate, and it has to be, because your role, even a role as a biological parent, and this is something that where some of the constant mistakes I was making was I was raised in a very authoritative household, you know, and I got the belt and I got hit. You know, I was raised in one of those houses where there was a lot of yelling, there was a lot of put downs, and I started making some of those same mistakes. And early on, when my oldest son, who's 25 now, by the time he was 5, I saw myself making those mistakes. And from that, I want to say it was about when he was 5 years old, I decided I am never going to hit my kid again, because this is just ridiculous. Because the thing I noticed about if you add corporal punishment, and I'm not telling people not hit their kids, it's totally your decision. But my decision was, if I involve striking my child as part of punishment, the severity depended upon my attitude of the day. It was very inconsistent, and kids thrive on consistency and reliability. And if you're hitting your kids out of anger, you are lacking consistency and reliability. And you now become a monster, because think about how big I am compared to a 7-year-old. I'm a monster. You know, and so it's even got to the point where I had a conversation with a friend of mine who challenged me even further. He's like, well, even in good times, when you're talking to your kids, do you stand above your kids and look down at them? Imagine how intimidating that is. So I've actually gotten to the point now where I'll either sit down with them, or I'll either kneel down, maybe even put my eye level below theirs, because I want them to feel safe so that they can have an environment. And this is not wishy-washy parenting. This is effectively disciplining, not punishing, disciplining. Because so if I want to mentor and I want to teach, that's on a plane of respect. You know, no different than a teacher. I mean, you think back to when you were in school, high school. Think about, you know, the effective teacher and the ineffective teacher. You know, even if you know what you're doing and you're good at what you do, if you're a bitch, I don't want to learn from you. I don't look forward to coming to your class.
You're 100%.
Right. I don't look forward to coming to your class, and I'm not going to put in 100% effort because I don't want to be here, even if I like the material. But you think about the interesting, and I'm not talking friendly, I'm just talking effective teachers were the ones who were kind and empathetic, but still had accountability in their classes. I wanted to go learn that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing that a lot of parents don't take into account either is when they yell at their kid, or when they do something out of passion or out of emotion. That's exactly what it is in their mind. It is, I'm doing this because I care. I'm doing this because I want you to be better. I'm doing this because I think this is what's best for you. But they don't realize that children, especially at a very young age, aren't able to process that. They're unable to look at it as that. They're not saying, oh, I'm getting spanked because I did something wrong, and you want me to do the right thing. You want me to behave appropriately, or they don't see, oh, you're yelling at me right now because you were scared that I was playing in the street, that I ran out to get my ball. That's not what they're thinking. What they're thinking is, oh, this person much bigger than me, this naturally scary being is now aggressive towards me, and I feel afraid. I feel unstable.
Well, you always have to ask yourself, what's the end result that I'm looking for? I want my kids to learn. Yeah. I want my stepkids to learn. And my job as a parent, as a role model and a mentor, is to raise little humans into effective adult humans, right? And that's not going to happen if I demand obedience, because where's the opportunity to learn in obedience? I went to basic training in the military 26 years ago, and it was the first 2 weeks was all about obedience and you do what you're told. But even in the military, eventually that was relaxed because they want people to think. So even in the most structured environment you can think of, they still want thought, and obedience it becomes less important because they've already put it into you. That's already important. That's part of the culture. Got it. But I can't be effective as a leader if I'm always putting down my people because they're not doing exactly what I tell them. I don't know everything. Right. To be an effective leader, to be an effective mentor, you have to admit that you don't know everything and rely on your team to do what your team does. And so as raising a child, their number one goal is to explore their environment and learn. And yes, you're a major impact on them, but they're not going to learn everything from you. They want to learn. How does a baby learn? I rolled over onto my belly. Now I'm standing up. Now I'm walking. Right. They model that. They know they're supposed to do that by watching you. But until they actually get an opportunity to do it and go out there and fall a couple times, they're never really going to get good at it. So anything all the way up until teenagers. And you said, well, what happens when they're talking back to me? Well, are you considering why? Are they exploring their environment? I threw something up on within the Champion Stepdad Facebook group today that talked about before you react to what they're doing, take a breath and think about why they're doing it. Even if they're talking back to you, maybe you're doing something wrong. Is there consider for a fact, for a moment, that you as a parent might not be doing the right thing. So take a breath and have a conversation. Where's the attitude coming from? I talked to Cindy about that, and I'm like, yeah, well, he had a lot of attitude. And then I got to think, like you said, developmentally, Kevin, what developmentally, do they even understand what it means to have attitude?
I was trying to pull up your Facebook page. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
You're good.
So I literally have it all typed up, ready to send over, and it came by right when I hit share, it takes it away. I'm sorry about that. Now, I actually want to turn this a little bit. How, as a champion stepdad, you're engaged, she has kids and you have kids, but with punishing the kids, she and you might have a different style. And I'm not meaning you going in and spanking, like you said, that's up to them. But maybe you talk to them and she has a different way. How do you work together to build that team before you become a champion stepdad? How do you create that
conversation? You have to have that conversation. Parents, I don't care if you're a blended family, a nuclear family, a single parent who has, assistance from mom or auntie, whoever. You have to have a conversation that says, this is the household that I want to have. This is what I want my house to look like. This is what we want our house to look like. And then you go forth and you do it. And then as things happen, and Cindy's great about this, by the way. My fiance is the most amazing person in the world. She never yells at me. She never puts me down. And that's something that I've had to, you would think, oh, that's great, you've got it easy. Yeah, but you got to remember that my upbringing, and then into, be not knowing what I was doing and getting married and having kids young, I just repeated all the same mistakes. I don't know what it's like to be in a relationship where people don't yell at each other. This is the first relationship I've ever been in, married or just dating, where we didn't fight regularly because we just assumed that's how people acted. Right.
Yeah.
And so she blows me away every day where she, she'll come to me and she'll say, you know what? I don't think you handled that as well as you could have. And she challenges me and she holds me accountable to say, you know what? You say you want to get better, then let's get better and let's talk about this. So you have to have those conversations. So she is responsible for how she wants to raise her children. And she's adamant that she wants me involved. She wants my opinion because of my experience and because of my education and training and everything. She wants to learn from me and she wants me to help. Ultimately, the responsibility is hers. So we have conversations about, this is the kind of household. The only thing that really sets me off is disrespect. And I'll tell the boys, I said, you and I, we can have lots of calm conversations, but if you disrespect your mom, we're going to have a problem. But even with that, I have to understand that, so as the 7-year-old comes out and he's got attitude, well, maybe he's hangry, maybe he needs something. if I don't take a step back, I'm going to ruin the opportunity to connect with him and learn that about him and figure out how to work with it and not against it. You talked about swimming upstream versus downstream. What can you do to work with the situation? Respond, don't react. You know, reacting is just blowing up. Responding is taking a breath. And actually thinking about that, one thing that I use as a powerful example is, so Cindy she was a medic in the Air Force. And so I use this analogy as when a first responder, a paramedic, an EMT, or a firefighter arrives on a scene, the first thing that they're taught is scene safe, right? So they need to assess the scene before they react, because you have to know what you're going into, right? But you also have to make sure that it's safe. In that moment, you're also assessing yourself, because if I run into a situation and I'm not fully, you know, my breathing's out of control and I'm not focused and I don't have the right attention, I could become a casualty, and now I'm a burden to my team instead of being an effective member of my team. So you think about that. A firefighter arrives on the worst scene you can imagine, and the first thing they're taught is to take a breath and assess yourself. So what are we possibly facing that we can't just take a breath and think before we act? And that's really, really powerful, because breathing is is very important. We know there's a massive impact on breath and relaxing our body, but it goes much deeper than that when it comes to like effective thoughts, drive, emotions. You know, we need to be more self-aware of how we're presenting ourselves to the environment that we live in, because again, your brain is easily tricked, and whatever I think is truth. Well, that goes for the kids too. And if they see me blowing up at every little thing, they're going to stop coming to me, and they're going to be afraid of me, and they're not going to connect with me. That's my responsibility.
That was much deeper than just kids too. That's how life is supposed to be. No matter if you're in a leadership position or just the bag boy at the grocery store, you need to be able to know who you are and keep yourself there. I wrote myself the question about boundaries. How do you keep boundaries with you and the kids and her without crossing over anything? Because they had their own life before that. You and your kids had your own energies, is the word I use a lot. Like before that you had together, that you built. While doing this, how do you create those boundaries as a stepdad? Champion stepdad. I want to rephrase that.
Yeah, it's so, and you know that it's funny because that title, Champion Stepdad, came from the idea of, if I'm studying performance psychology, which has its roots in sports psychology, right? So how do athletes become more effective athletes? How do you become a champion? Is, you know, using skills so that you can get yourself focused, so you can have energy management, so you can have effective thought and emotional control, right? Why can't I take that same theory and apply it to, like you said, any area of my life, whether I'm a business person, I'm a high-risk professional, I'm an actor or a musician, or a stepdad? Why can't I approach being a stepdad as I would an athlete? I want to be the best that I can be. And, you know, 80% of anything that we do is, you know, just applying and working at it. It's the champion part comes in that, you know, 10 to 20%, where it's really in the details. But you got to learn how do I do that? And that's where, like, optimism and mindset and perspective, like, those are all very important. And I roll those into it. But eventually you have to ask yourself, how do I do that? How do I have an effective mindset? How do I have an effective perspective? Right? It's in the skills and process over everything, process and skills, because, you know, whether you're talking about business or you're talking about an athlete getting ready to perform, there's a process. Everybody has a process that's effective for them, that they prepare, and then they get ready in the last couple minutes, and then they go out and they perform. So going back to your question, is boundaries are very important. And I started looking at this with my daughter, who I'm very close with. She's 22 now, and we talk a lot about boundaries, because just like me, she's exploring, she's dating, and she's, you know, trying to figure out where she's going. And it's, you got to have the idea of where are you going and what do you want? And if you don't understand what you value, how do you live your life? And so I challenge people, first of all, is what are the 3, 4, or 5 things that you value the most? And don't, you know, it's easy to say, well, I value family. Well, what does that even mean? Like define that. What does that mean to value family, right?
Yeah.
Like I've got 3 brothers, and they're all assholes, like, and
that is love in itself, though, with brothers. Like Gavin and I are assholes to one another, but then when one of us calls each other, sends that like text, like, dude, I'm stuck right now. We're brothers, and we take care of one another, making sure we're building one another up. So that love is a different way with men to women. But as you're saying, family is like different and all that. You have 3 brothers who are assholes and all that.
So yeah, I mean, you gotta define and really get into what do you value? What are your belief systems, and why do you believe the way that you believe? And because we're a mixture of nature and nurture, and chances are we think the way that we think because of people and experiences that we've had in the past, right? So if I think the way that I think, no different than I parent the way that I parented at first and realized, well, this is stupid. I didn't even like it when I was a kid. Why am I doing this to my kids? You have to have that self-awareness. You need to challenge your beliefs and understand, why do you think the way that you think? You think the way you think because you believe something. So challenge what you believe. Because if you don't have that awareness, it's like this self-awareness before you can self-regulate. Why are you living the way you're living? You don't even understand what you believe and what your values are. So how can you set healthy boundaries when you don't understand what you value? So challenging yourself to understand what's the life that I want to create for myself, and what's the life that I want to help other people create. And then I can do some self-reflection and say, well, I value mentorship. Well, what does that mean as a stepdad? Well, I want my children to be who they are, and I want to teach and guide them, but still give them the space to make mistakes and become who they want to be. So that's some clarity for me. So now when Mason, the 7-year-old, walks out and he's got an attitude, I can take a breath and take a step back and say, hey, Mason, is there something bothering you today? And that's much more productive, and it's engaging, and it builds connection, but it also puts the emphasis back on him to say, hey, man, I don't like the way that you're treating other people. Is there something wrong? And then you engage and you have a conversation. So, the idea of, well, how do you create a healthy boundaries? Well, you have to understand what you want to create first. When it comes to Cindy's ex, Matt, and I, he's not the kind of person I'm going to go and I'm going to have dinner and have drinks with, but he's a good dude. If he stops over, like, he'll just walk, he'll knock on the door and walk in the front door. He'll text me and say, hey man, I'm on my way over. I'm like, hey, the door's unlocked. Because we have that mutual respect. He's the kid's dad, and I need to make sure that I have the respect. The boundary is, he's just not somebody I need to be aware. He's not somebody I'm going to go out and have a drink with, right? Yeah. But I need to change my mindset to say he's a good dude. He's a good dad, right? And actually, in my previous marriage, Shane, the ex, him and I actually became very good friends, and we would go out and have dinner and go out and have a drink. And he actually came to me one day. Actually, Matt did this. I forgot about this. When we first moved down here to Phoenix in August, the first time Matt came over to pick up the kids were inside getting their stuff. We went out in the driveway, and he's like, hey, man, I really appreciate what you're doing for the kids. I think that you're really good influence on them. And I was like, holy crap. That's like the best. That's like the best compliment anybody has ever given me. And then I think back to Shane, who is my stepson. Tyler is 19. His dad actually died in a car accident, but well before that, Tyler's a hockey player, and Shane was coaching. And the first time he was picked up to be a head coach, he didn't know anybody. And he's like, I need somebody that I can trust. I need you to be one of my assistant coaches. So we built that kind of relationship, and we would go on hockey trips and we would share hotel rooms because it was just financially responsible. But we could do that because we had that mutual respect for each other, and we became really good friends. I don't see Matt and I doing that, but I need to have that perspective that this isn't about me. My relationship with Cindy is about her and I, but when you add the kids, and Brandon, going back to your conversation is, I got to be aware that there's kids involved, and this is much bigger than myself. And if I want to have first of all, I want to have a good relationship with my spouse. That involves having a good relationship with our kids. Mm-hmm. And that means setting myself aside. Doesn't mean minimizing myself. It means setting myself aside, setting my ego aside so that I can create the environment that I want to create. So when you talk about healthy boundaries, I have to have that conversation in my head, that entire conversation in my head, to figure out what am I trying to create before I can decide what those healthy boundaries are.
Go ahead, Gavin. I'll keep talking.
No, you're good. And I completely agree that it is about the kids at that point. It makes it so much easier, and less, not even easier on the kids, but easier on yourself when you're able to have that mature relationship with another parent. The question that I've been wrapping my head around this whole time and been meaning to ask is, have you found a difference on how you approach your relationship with the stepchild based on their age, like younger versus older?
Yeah, well, and not even just age, but you said a couple times developmental. What's their developmental stage? A lot of times, and I remember this from being a little kid with a little brother. I was the third of four, but the fourth, Craig. I remember it seemed like the younger kids have the advantage of observing their older brothers, and they tend to pick up stuff that maybe the older child didn't have until later. But that's because we observe our environment, and kids learn primarily by modeling, right? And kids are always watching. I still remember stuff from when I was a kid that my parents don't know that I know about them. I would overhear conversations, or I would watch their interactions. And kids pick up. Kids are smart, man. And I, at a 7-9-year-old, we got to be careful, because I know damn well I can remember back when I was in preschool picking up on stuff like, wow, that's what it's like rewatching cartoons, and you're like, oh, that's what that joke meant. You pick up on stuff as a little kid that people don't realize. So you got to give credit to kids at an early age as possible, because they're watching, they're listening, they're observing, they're modeling, and they will learn from you. For better or for worse. So you have to create the household that you want, right? Standards and accountability. What do we expect? What will we not allow to happen? And that's why I told the kids, disrespect your mom is my number one. But even then I have to have the conversation. I can't just stomp it out. You have to understand developmentally, where are the kids? What are they experiencing? At 9 years old, Jackson is, Cindy calls him her old man. Like, he's just a different, he'll have conversations with you like you're talking to I know, right? Jackson will sit there and talk about history and military warfare and stuff like that. Yeah. And then he'll flip the switch and he'll talk about, skateboarding and scootering at the skate park. Like, you got to understand where they're at, and you got to meet them where they are. And that takes time of you, just like kids observe you. You have to observe the kids and find out what are they interested in? What kind of conversations do they have? And then meet them where they are. It's more developmental than age, but yes, you have to take that into consideration.
I love it. What has been your biggest challenges? Like, being, I found out why I couldn't get the Facebook page to open. You have to be privately invited. And I don't have any stepkids, but I am an inner child. Can that count?
Well, you said you were a foster, right?
I was a foster dad to 3 medically fragile kids. It changed my life in many great ways. So yeah,
and that's something that I need to work with as we grow the community is help people understand that being a stepdad is more than just there are not a lot of traditional roles and titles that are continuing to carry on. There's a lot of roles, and that's a perfect example. My mom was a foster care also. We didn't have long term. She was educated in she did special education teacher, and went into the school system, didn't like how the school system was working. She's like, I'm just going to go do this on my own, and became an emergency foster care home where we would take in abused, neglected kids, which was I wouldn't say traumatic, but it was very eye-opening in itself to see, not only, from physically and sexually abused children who just needed a place to stay until they could find them a permanent place, to, like you mentioned, very medically fragile children that we would have to very intently pay attention to. So, I mean, I don't want to put labels on this. The Facebook page, Champion Stepdad, is a closed group. Anybody can request. But I've had to put, we talked about healthy boundaries. I want a place where guys can have the honest conversations that they need to. So at the moment, it's Champion Stepdad, which means it's stepdads only, men only. And I've had a whole bunch of women want to get in, and I'm like, I'm not there yet. Like, I just started this in January, right? But those people.
That's amazing that you have the outreach already, though, for that. that you have so many people like coming to you for it.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, look, the podcast is always there. And I encourage people to hit me up and email me, message me on Facebook. Even my phone number's on my website. Like, call me. Let's have a conversation. Yeah. I'm a big Gary Vaynerchuk fan. Give, right? What you put out, and there's a time and a place to make money. And I am a business person, and I have a business, and I need to make money. But I'm not going to shut down a conversation simply because somebody doesn't have the money or isn't ready to pay, and that's okay. So the podcast is always going to be there. The Facebook group is private for men to have those effective conversations, because there's just something about guys getting together where we can have the conversations that we need to have without judgment. And there needs to be more of that. And so that's why I created it the way that I do. But I'm not opposed to having conversations with people that are not stepdads, because there's a lot of women out there that are like, you know what, I see this. And that's why a lot of the podcast episodes are just subject based rather than, I want to talk about how this is relevant to stepdads, but this is relevant to a lot of people. I even got my brother. He didn't even have kids. And he's like, yeah, man, I've been listening to a couple of your shows and it's really good stuff. So, I can't be everything to everybody, which is why when it comes to business, I've had to niche down to how am I going to gain attention? Because for the last 2 years, I was open my business as I was a resilience trainer and performance consultant. Well, what the fuck does that mean? I can't advertise myself to everybody, because then I'm just I'm a good idea walking through the woods and nobody's listening, but when it comes to it, resilience skills are important to everybody. Everybody can benefit from learning performance psychology skills. Everybody, most guys I know fall into one of four categories at one, either now or in the past. You were either an athlete, you're a business person, you're a high risk professional, or you're a performing artist. Most guys fall into one of those four categories, right? And so you can imagine using performance psychology skills to prepare and perform more effectively. No different than we look at an athlete, whether it's football in UK or football in the United States. An athlete has to use mental skills so they can be more resilient, so they can manage stress, so they can effectively prepare for competition and then go out and perform effectively. You can imagine how you could take that mindset and that perspective and apply it in any area of your life. Everybody performs. I want to help you perform better.
My favorite thing.
So when it comes to Champion Stepdad, I did it because I needed to niche down and actually find, like, business wise, I need to get attention. And in order to gain attention, you have to have an audience. But I don't want that to be a barrier to somebody who identifies with what I'm saying and wants to learn more. Yes.
So I think the one thing that you said that really ingrained in me, that I thought of, was when you said you're walking in the woods. I thought of the analogy of, if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? And if you have a great idea, or you have something that you want to be able to do and there's no action behind it, did the idea really exist? Same thing with being in the woods. And without putting any action behind it, with being a stepdad, you're given that opportunity to actually, not just stepdad, I'm using that because that's what the conversation is today, but like as a person, you have that chance to help develop people and show them the best them by being understanding and having healthy boundaries. That's how you know you're building your best you. What is something that you've experienced as a stepdad that this is going to sound weird, but it's my best way of framing it, but you kind of want to let people know as a warning, like, look, you're going to want to know what you're getting into with this. And I wish I would have known that, because for me, being a foster dad, I wish I would have understood the laws that came about before that, because there was a lot of things that we were restricted on doing, and it kind of limited the connection we could have with the kid. But as a stepdad, it's a totally different realm. And a lot of men walk into that and they just see the mom. What would be something you'd want to be able to do to like encourage others that going out and becoming when you meet that person and they have kids as a stepdad, what would be something you wish you would have known beforehand? Sorry, that's a long question.
No, that's good. It's good. It's really good self-reflective question. It's challenging, and I like to be challenged in that, and I would say the first thing that comes to mind is especially when you're having conversations with somebody you just met and you realize they have kids and you're like, oh, what's going on here? Ask questions and then listen to understand, because again, it's not about you. And that's not to minimize you. You don't have to minimize yourself in order to increase somebody else or to improve somebody else. You know, the rising tide raises all ships. I don't need to minimize myself in order to make other people feel better. I want other people to feel better, period. But when you have those conversations, you need to ask questions, because if you're entering somebody else's world, meaning, again, going back to if there's stepchildren, it's because either a relationship ended or somebody died. You need to understand what you're getting into by asking questions of, you know, what happened. I wouldn't be so bold to, you know, there's a difference between being inquisitive and being a jerk. You can ask questions without being an asshole. But ask questions. And if you're serious about getting in a relationship with somebody, you should be willing to have whatever conversations you need to have. And if they're resistant, then you need to take a step back and say, okay, well, maybe they're not ready for me.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation I'm having with my 22-year-old daughter, who's in a relationship and she's unsure and they fight a lot. And I'm like, oh man, I see a lot of similarities between her and I and the experiences that I had. And I'm like, not every relationship is meant to work out, and not every relationship is worthy of your time and attention. And it's not because you're above that person. It's because maybe you're not ready. Take a step back and work on yourself. Right? You got to be good for yourself before you can be great for somebody else. So, you know, it's the idea of really take a step back. You know, I look at my second marriage, and there was a lot of good things. I'm not going to put her down and say all the bad things, because there was clearly some good things. I was with her for over 11 years. But I look back on it, there was some definite red flags that I ignored and some conversations that we didn't have. So have conversations and really seek to understand yourself, the situation, the other person. What's going on? What am I really getting into? Because if you're not having those conversations now, you're eventually going to have that conversation later, and it might be in the form of adversity or some type of conflict, right? You might as well have the conflict ahead of time.
Yeah. Gavin, if you have something, let me know, because I have a quick thing I want to. You said
you're good. I'm really enjoying the conversation. I'm just listening at this point.
Okay, I just didn't want to leave you hanging. Have you heard of the 2-3 rule with marriage?
I might have, but I can't think of what it is.
All right. You've been married twice, you said, and now you're engaged, correct?
Yep.
So this will be. Don't worry, I've been engaged twice, married once, engaged once, and single now. But my ex-fiance and I would talk, and she would say, oh, well, the 2-3 rule, where one person has to be through 3 things. So 2 marriages, and now this is your third. And your wife, your future wife, your fiance, has been through a divorce as well, or a situation because she has kids like that. It's one of you've been through 2 things. The other one's been through 3. That usually is when you end up being with your partner forever. You meet that person. My fiance showed me this, and then she went through all these family friends. My ex-fiance would show us all these things, and it was amazing when I went back and thought about it, how many people were married 2 times to 3 times, and then they found their life partner that they're with forever in that same math equation where one of them's on their third and the other one's on their second. I just was curious if you ever heard of that because of you mentioning your stuff, because it's just a fascinating thing. When she said it, I always caught it.
I don't know. I've never heard that, but it makes sense. But that comes to, so the coaching that I do with people is primarily based on 2 statements. The first one is that happened, now what? And that's not meant to minimize experiences. What that's meant to do is to focus your attention on where your control is. If you've got adversity or trauma in your past, you need to heal from that. Absolutely. I've spent lots of time in therapy. Been in the military 26 years. My last deployment, I was in the Middle East for 6 months. Every Thursday that I was available, I was in the psychologist's office because I had a lot of stuff I was working on, and that was the deployment right before my marriage ended. I had a lot of soul searching that I was doing. So I am not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a performance consultant. Right. I'm a resilience trainer. And I say that because within psychology, words matter. If I come out and say I'm a sports psychologist, that's unethical. I'm not. I haven't had to receive the training or the certification to help people heal from trauma. Right. That's not my specialty. That's somebody else's. And I encourage that. I love when people talk about, I'm going to counseling. Great. I love it. That's good stuff. But my job is to figure out where you're at and where you're going, in partnership with previous healing. And at 47, man, I'm still healing from a lot of the stuff. I talk about things I remember when I was, in first or second grade that I experienced in an authoritative household where there was a lot of arguing and fighting. I'm still not completely over a lot of those things, and that's okay, right? We don't always have to be great. We just need to be good, and we need to be on that projection to try to continually become better. So that happened. Now what? But then the other thing is, what doesn't kill you might make you weak. And the idea that just because you made it through adversity does not mean that you're stronger on the other side. What did you learn? Because we go back to that idea of your brain doesn't know the difference between what's real and what you tell it is real. Your brain is constantly taking in information, more data than you can possibly effectively process, store, and recall, right? So you think about all the 5 senses that we have and all the data, even just touching stuff, my brain is constantly pulling in information, right? So over 99% of the data that we pull into our brain, we don't even realize. And that leads to your brain creating mental shortcuts, because that's the survival nature of your brain. Your brain wants to create shortcuts because then it's easier for you to focus on what you need to focus on, because you have limited attention. Attention's like currency. The more you spend it on one thing, the less you have to spend on something else. So your brain creates mental shortcuts. But what's challenging is not all of those shortcuts are productive. And I don't use words like positive, negative. I think those are ineffective words. People talk about positive emotion. What's a positive emotion? Because I'll ask people, what's a negative emotion? They'll say anger. Well, can you think of a time where anger was an effective emotion to feel at the time? Right? So there's no such thing as positive and negative emotions. That drives me absolutely crazy. There's only productive and counterproductive. What are you trying to achieve, and what's the emotion that's going to help you get there? Right? Yeah. So the idea of what doesn't kill you might make you weak is your brain creating shortcuts in the form of habits. You can think of like smoking. Smoking's a habit, right? How do you kick the habit? You decide you don't want to smoke anymore, right? So I've got friends of mine, they're like, well, it's not that easy. Well, do you look at yourself as a smoker, or do you look at somebody who smokes? And they're like, well, I'm a smoker. I'm a dipper. Well, that's because you've identified part of your identity is a smoker. So you're not going to be able to quit, right? I used to smoke when I was in my 20s, and one day I was like, you know what? This is stupid. Why am I doing this? So I quit. The mind is extremely powerful, but if you trick your mind's going to believe it. So we have all these habits that and it could be something simple, like if Cindy comes home from a tough day at work and she yells at me, or she yells at the dog, or she yells at the kids. Okay, once or twice, that's, she just had a bad day. But the more she does it, the more she's programming her brain to say, after a hard day at work, it's okay to come home and yell at the kids. It's okay to come home and yell at your husband. I'm not going to answer that.
Perfect timing.
I'm not expecting anybody.
Oh, that was funny.
Yeah. Well, I think it is somebody that's coming over. But they're not.
I thought that was like a sound effect that you had on your computer for some reason. I was I thought I hallucinated because you were talking about how powerful the mind is, and I was thinking about somebody walking into the house right now, and I'm like, who the hell are you? Just like in my mind, I'm like, oh, what if I just hallucinate creating this person there, and all of a sudden the doorbell is ringing there. I'm like, holy shit. The mind is powerful.
What would make me laugh is if it's the kid's dad. Like, because you said you'd text each other and he'd walk in. All of a sudden, he's in the background. I'm like, this could not have gone better. Let's have fun. That's hilarious. Jessica Dugas wrote, I agree that except in the instances where the behaviors come along with emotions, create high or low energy vibrations. Like you're mentioning about, like, you grew up in a house where there was yelling and stuff. Changing that energy, changing that momentum and the vibration is very difficult, especially inside ourselves. Do you need to go get that really quick? Because they're going to keep ringing.
Yeah, they're probably going to. It's probably the electrician's not supposed to be here for another 20 minutes. So,
you know what? I'll ask Gavin.
Huh?
No, go get him. That way you don't have to wait. Just tell him you're on air. I'll ask Gavin this question. Gavin, as an individual who has never had a kid, what would you when you have a girl you're dating that has kids, how do you make sure that you keep proper boundaries for her and the kids?
All right.
That's
I told
very
him
easy.
like 10
The
minutes.
first thing sounds good. The first thing that I do anytime that somebody I'm with tells me I have a kid or I found out they have a kid, which is usually before the first date. It's usually in the talking stage, or it's during the first date. I say, okay, well, what's your parenting style? How do you go about how do you go about discipline, spanking, stuff like that if they're doing something wrong? And then the next thing I ask is, okay, what's the relationship with the other parents? So that way I can sort of get a mindset. 'Cause I really do like the mutual respect aspect of co-parenting, and I want to know what terms my significant other is on, just so that way I know if I need to not be aggressive, but maybe be a little more defensive or a little more like neutral, or if I can be friendlier with the person. And friendlier is always the goal, just to keep things easy and stress-free for everybody. So that's usually I go about what kind of parenting style they are, what kind of relationship they have with the other parents, and then I talk to them about, okay, what would you like me to do in certain situations? Like if they're acting up, or if they like if I'm just watching them, like if like she has to run to the gas station or something, or the store, and the kid doesn't want to go, so I say, I will just stay home, watch them. Like they ask for a certain snack, any kind of allergies, any kind of things they are and are not allowed to eat. Then we start getting like the little specific things like that. But if I'm ever put in a scenario where, like I said earlier, the kid is acting up, or there is some kind of resistance or resentment towards me starting to happen, that I just take a breath. I'm very calm about it. And I usually, if they're younger, which they usually, I've never, I think the oldest child a woman has had that I've been with was, want to say 6-year-old. I was 19 at the time. So that was the oldest, which is in
Neil and I's
relativity.
face. Neil and I both made the same face. We're like, whoa, like
so 19 with a 6-year-old, right?
Right.
She was not 19. She was 20, like 23, I think. Had him at 17, but a 6-year-old little boy, and he had some emotional development issues just because came from a rougher, environment, family. She had him very young and everything. So anytime that he would start to get into one of his moods, which all children do, I would be very calm and neutral about it. I try to distract him with something. But if that didn't work, then I would just, for the most part, just sort of have the mother get more involved and let her handle the situation. I would just remain calm and continue on doing whatever I was doing, whether it was cooking or watching TV or cleaning up around the house, or whatever the situation was, until he had calmed down. And then I'd involve him again in whatever it is I'm doing, or I would get involved in whatever he wanted to do.
Okay, I get that.
Yeah.
And that's good. That's great, because you don't want to come in and try to take things over. Like, that's not what you're supposed to be doing here. You're supposed to be a support.
Yeah, no.
You're supposed to be a mentor and a role model. And the best thing you can do is model good behavior. Because even if they don't get it now, they're going to remember you later. And yeah, I think conversations are important, but I don't want to make this sound. Wow, where'd Gavin go?
He's like, I don't care what Neil has to say. Goodbye.
But yeah, and I don't want to paint a picture, because not everybody's experiencing this. There's a lot of dirtbag dads and dirtbag moms that are out there that, or there's just differences of opinion. I mean, I could call somebody a dirtbag, and maybe I just don't understand the full story. So we have
kicked me out for some reason.
Yeah, we have to accept our role, and we have to accept the limitations of the role. And we have to focus our intention on what can we control. And the first thing we can control is our thoughts, our behaviors, and our emotions. If we can do that, we will be more effective for the situation, regardless of what the situation is. We can't control the biological dad. We can't control anything, right? Except ourselves. And what you can do is you can better your environment by being a better person.
Damn. That's a mic drop moment right there. I liked it. So Neil, the way we end every show, because we're with the last 5 minutes and your electrician is there and he does not like to wait. You can tell by the doorbell, but we end every episode by speaking positivity. We give a positive message to go through the rest of the day to give everybody that. And I know you don't like saying positive, negative, but it's a positive way of giving words to people to get through the day. Gavin, I'll go first. You'll go second today because I've made you go first all week. So I'll go first today. And then you'll go, and then Neil will end it for us to end the show with speaking positivity to the audience and what you'd want to say. You'll see how we do it. It's pretty easy. Right. So, guys, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This was a great episode. Neil brought a lot of in-depth conversational pieces, not just for stepdads, but for every individual, creating boundaries to understanding other people's perspective. I hit subscribe on air, as you all saw, but do yourself a favor and go hit that subscribe button, because the truth is there's a lot of people out there that don't know what it means for, using a stepdad analogy, to be the best person they can be with respecting everybody else around them. And being a stepdad means you're walking into a situation that already has its own energy, already has its own thing. And you need to stay calm, balanced, and make sure you bring the delight in life like all families are supposed to. Take the time to be the dad you want, to be the person you want everyone to see.
Absolutely. Thank you. What I would like to say for this, and this goes for if you are a step parent, parents with your own biological children, an uncle, an aunt, a coach, any sort of role model or parental figure to someone else. You need to know when to step up and step down as well. What I mean by this is you need to know when it's time to step in and say, hey, I think that maybe you should go about it this way. Hey, why don't you try this instead? Mm-hmm. But you also don't want to be smothering the child and sheltering them so bad that they don't learn any lessons. You also need to learn, you need to know when to take a step back and let them scrape their knees, let them get their heart broken, let them sign up for something and then realize that they didn't really want to do it, but make sure they follow through with it anyway because they made a commitment to it. You need to be able to be stern enough where you can help guide them in the right direction, but empathetic and soft enough where you can comfort them and let them get hurt sometimes. Because failing is the best way for them to learn. You know, they can learn vicariously through you and your lessons and your own failures, but a lot of the times they're going to need to do it themselves, and that is okay. You know, you did it, I did it, Brandon did it, I'm sure Neil's done it plenty of times. We all fail, but we are all still here, and we're here stronger because of those failures. So learn when to step up and when to step down.
That's good stuff. And I appreciate the opportunity to come on the show. This has been fun. I love talking about this stuff. I'm very passionate about it. And so first of all, to the parents, to the step parents, what I would say is your role, the best analogy I can think of is you're like the edge of a swimming pool. Kids have fun out in the pool and they learn by going and doing. When they get scared, when they get nervous, they come to the edge of the pool until they feel more comfortable again. And then they swim back out into the pool. So your job is to be consistent and reliable so that when the children need you, you're there. And they know that you're going to be there, and you are reliable and you're consistent in your emotions and your behaviors so that when they need you, they know that you're going to be there, and they're going to progress and they're going to develop more confidently, knowing that they have you as their foundation and their structure that they can lean on when they need you. But when they don't need you and they're out doing their own thing, it's not because you're any less or they're ignoring you. They know that you are their firm foundation and structure. So take advantage of the times that you have them. Encourage them when they're off doing their own thing. For everybody in general, what I would say is the definition of survivor is to continue to exist. Don't just survive. My encouragement to you is to learn skills, challenge your thoughts and your belief system to constantly evolve so that you can grow and thrive through stress and adversity. Don't just bounce back, grow and thrive.
Very well said. Honestly, Neil, phenomenal episode today. Thank you for being on here. I have 2 very easy, quick questions while we come to the end. First one, is that really an Atari thing on your shirt?
Yeah.
I love it. It says classically trained. I'm sitting here going, I want that shirt like so bad. And then this one is just my random one of the day. I'm very good at finding a random thing. Neil, is your favorite actor Neil Patrick Harris? Because he's one of my favorites. And when I saw your name, I was like, oh, I wonder if he likes him as much as I do.
You know, I wouldn't say he's my favorite, but I remember him when he was a kid actor, and I'm about the same age as him, so it fits, right?
Yes. Well, Neil Patrick Harris was Doogie Howser, for anybody that doesn't know, before he was on so many other things. And I read your name, and I'm like, yep, I have to ask that question. It was just the first one that came in.
I like.
Oh, he is. So, guys.
Here's one more thing. So, if you and Brandon, I know you're old like I am. I did this the other day. You want to blow kids' minds. Tell them that you're older than Google.
I am older than Google, but you ready to learn something? Ready? I'm going to blow your mind. He's younger than both of us. He's 21, but guess what? He's still older than Google.
Right.
That just like. First time I saw...
You know that Betty White is older than sliced bread?
Yes! That's a true fact! I love it. So, guys, go give Neil a subscribe. Hit that subscribe button for him. Don't forget to share this with your friends, family, and all that. Spreading positivity only comes when we all do it together. Find the light in you. Put a little Java through your day and get you back to delight. Neil, thank you, my friend.